Master. During my sadhana period, I had all kinds of amazing visions. I distinctly perceived the communion of Atman. A person exactly resembling me entered my body and began to commune with each one of the 6 lotuses. Footnote: a reference to the lotuses at the 6 centers through which the Kundalini rises. Footnote ends. The petals of these lotuses had been closed, but as each of them experienced the communion, the drooping flower bloomed and turned itself upward. Thus blossomed forth the lotuses at the centers of Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Anahata, Vishuddha, Ajna and Sahasrara. The drooping flowers turned upward. I perceived all these things directly. When I meditated during my sadhana, I used to think of the unflickering flame of a lamp set in a windless place. In deep meditation, a man is not at all conscious of the outer world. A hunter was aiming at a bird. A bridal procession passed along beside him, with the groom's relatives and friends, music, carriages, and horses. It took a long time for the procession to pass the hunter, but he was not at all conscious of it. He did not know that the bridegroom had gone by. A man was angling in a lake, all by himself. After a long while, the float began to move. Now and then its tip touched the water. The angler was holding the rod tight in his hands, ready to pull it up, when a passer-by stopped and said, "Sir, can you tell me where Mr. Banerjee lives?" There was no reply from the angler, who was just on the point of pulling up the rod. Again and again, the stranger said to him in a loud voice, "Sir, can you tell me where Mr. Banerjee lives?" But the angler was unconscious of everything around him. His hands were trembling, his eyes fixed on the float. The stranger was annoyed and went on. When he had gone quite a way, the angler's float sank under the water, and with one pull of the rod he landed the fish. He wiped the sweat from his face with his towel and shouted after the stranger. "Hey," he said, "come here, listen." But the man would not turn his face. After much shouting, however, he came back and said to the angler, "Why are you shouting at me?" "What did you ask me about?" said the angler. The stranger said, I repeated the question so many times. And now you are asking me to repeat it once more. The angler replied. At that time, my float was about to sink, so I didn't hear a word of what you said. A person can achieve such single-mindedness in meditation that he will see nothing, hear nothing. He will not be conscious even of touch. A snake may crawl over his body, but he will not know it. Neither of them will be aware of the other. In deep meditation, the sense organs stop functioning. The mind does not look outward. It is like closing the gate of the outer court in a house. There are 5 objects of the senses: form, taste, smell, touch, and sound. They are all left outside. At the beginning of meditation, the objects of senses appear before the aspirant. But when the meditation becomes deep, they no longer bother him. They are left outside. How many things I saw during meditation! I vividly perceived before me a heap of rupees, a shawl, a plate of sweets, and 2 women with rings in their noses. What do you want? I asked my mind. Do you want to enjoy any of these things? No, replied the mind. I don't want any of them. I don't want anything but the lotus feet of God. I saw the inside and the outside of the women, as one sees from outside the articles in a glass room. I saw what is in them: entrails, blood, filth, worms, phlegm, and such things.